Okay, good morning. Let's get started with our agenda.
Move to approve.
Second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, minutes for the October 7th, 2021 board meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Resolution 55, 2021, abating certain property taxes in the city of Eldon.
Through a court order, the city of Eldon received 2 parcels of property. And when they received those, they got a property tax bill. And of course, cities don't pay property taxes. So since they own these now, we've been a request to us to abate those taxes. They're small amounts, but they don't pay taxes and they were on there as a result of the court order. So I make a motion to approve resolution number 55-2021.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, airport analyst proposal, Bolton Inc.
I thought Sharon was going to be here today, but what this is an analysis of the airport, and what they're looking at now is there's no vacant industrial buildings in Ottumwa, the close vicinity of Ottumwa. All the inventory is sold, rented, filled up. They're looking for a way to build land product inventory. Indian Hills has kind of started selling some of the land that they owned out around the airport. And you've seen last week, Atlantic Coke. Looks like they're going to open a distribution warehouse here in Ottumwa again, which is great. That was with land bought from Indian Hills. So what this actually study analysis lays out is kind of some of the transportation stuff, capacity analysis, FAA or Department of Defense limitations. Remember, it was a naval air station, military base for quite a bit of time, and there is still some red tape around some of that stuff. And also what the utility overlay and how some additional stormwater stuff can be done, and more or less just future expansion, trying to get things laid out a little better at the airport. Total cost of the project is $58,500. I think the city committed $10,000 to it a week or two ago. GoPip's going to do $10,000. Legacy, I believe, is committed to $8,500 or is close to it. I don't think it was much of an issue. Alliant Energy, Interstate Transmission, and Indian Hills and Mid-American all are contributing $5,000 to it. So they're just asking the county to contribute $10,000 as well to the project.
When's it going to be completed? Do you know?
Could take about 18 months to 2 years. It
What
does
takes
not,
so long?
well, I don't really know. Do you have anything to add on this? Do you know much of anything on it? The analysis does not qualify the land as site certified like they did with the Helgerson Flats area. We'll cover a number of issues that can prepare the site for admittance into the site certification program. The next application cycle is February 22nd. Takes about 18 months to 2 years to complete. I think that's for the site certification. I think this part of it's only going to take 6 months. Okay. So I move to approve the $10,000 for the analysis.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 5, library presentation concerning digitization of library records and possible action.
I got a request, and I've had some conversations with the director at the library. We approved here a month ago this digitization of the records for our recorder's office, and the same company has been in conversation with the library, And I've asked the library director to come and give us a presentation. She's asking for a request for some funding. And, you know, we have helped other libraries. We've not, even though annually we give a contribution to the library, we have not helped them on special projects that come along. So I asked her to come today and explain this to you.
Hi, I'm Sonia Farrell. I'm the director of the Ottumwa Public Library. And long before COVID, we had entered into a bidding process with Advantage Microfilm to see what it would cost to digitize our Iowa history room. And that has a lot of local records, both through our local media and books and publications by local authors, local histories, family genealogies, cemetery records, that kind of thing. And so over the years, we've wanted to preserve them by digitizing them for multiple reasons. One, specifically microfilm breaks down over time. And once that record is deteriorated, we have no backup. And two, once you digitize something, you can do keyword searches. So like right now, if you went to the library to do some research on your great grandparent that passed away in the 20s, if you didn't know the exact, date or month or even year, you would just be, streaming through the couriers to try to find that record. If you have the keyword search, it's just like searching on Google. You would be able to type in your great grandparent's name and be able to narrow down what issue of the courier it was in. The other reason that we want to do this is that we are basically definitely the only local resource that has all of these records, but we're one of the few, even in the state, that has all the courier records. Even the courier doesn't have all of their issues on microfilm. And so if something would happen to our copies of them, they would be lost forever. And so because it is such a huge project and a huge cost to digitize this type of thing, we've broken it down into stages. And the first stage that our contact at Advantage Microfilm did was the pre-1924, because that's after 1924, it's not in the public domain. And so we run into copyright issues. So we've gotten that first quote for the 24,000 to be pre-1924, and that would be all the newspapers. It's not just the Courier, but primarily the Courier. There's some weekly newspapers and other daily newspapers that existed in our early history as a community.
Did they give you a time frame on how long, if we said, okay, today, how long it would take to complete this?
I think approximately 6 months, but I think that's a common estimate. So.
Now, on the two parts that you talked about, the other part since 1924 is more expensive. And we talked about you were going to try and get some grants.
Yep.
Do you have any idea that if you're successful on getting those, how much of that 81,000 would be covered by your grant requests?
I've been looking at different types of grants, so some of them would be matching and some of them wouldn't. So I don't have an estimate on that. And that's just the microfilm. That doesn't count any of our, we have lots of scrapbooks that, are not reproducible. We have lots of local history books. So we've broken this down into the stages of the microfilm, and then we would do the hard copy digitization of those items.
So this is pre-1924.
Yep.
And it's the newspapers, Courier, and any other.
Yep, there's some weeklies. I think I wrote in the memo to you guys, it goes as far back as 1848, although those 1848 to about, 1880, it's sparse, but from about 1880 on, we're pretty consistent with what we have in our collection.
Well, I'd like to see us go ahead and do that. I spend quite a bit of time over there in the history room. So,
Pay this out of sales tax.
sales tax. It's a capital project. So I'd make a motion that we approve the request for the pre-1924 to be paid out of sales tax. And our sales tax fund is solvent right now.
I'll second it. What would your time frame be to digitize everything like post 1924?
It would depend on getting the grant funding and other financial resources, but once we get this project kicked off, I think that the momentum would carry it, and so that I could try to get this done in the next year to 2 years.
Do you think it, like the price of it now, of course, 1924 to now is going to be a lot more years, but so I'm not, I guess, not asking if it's going to be more expensive, but is it going to be easier, you think, doing the more recent stuff? Or is it all,
It's
it's
not
all,
gonna be easier. It'll be more expensive just because of the copyright, the
Okay.
rights costs. And they negotiate those with the publications like the Courier.
okay,
I don't think there's too much after 1924 that is not Courier, but I can't say that for sure.
Well, I'd like to see us approve all of it, but I'd like to see what you're going to be able to get in grants and what you might need for matching funds, which would reduce the amount that we would have to contribute. It's preserving history is what it is, and that's.
And we get lots of requests, daily from folks that have moved out of the area or might have relatives that were based in the Courier or in the Potomac area that they want us to do their research for them, which is fine. That's one of our services. And then they often make contributions. But if you could, be in your home in another state and just look on the internet and do a keyword search, it would make all of our lives a lot easier and make the information a lot more accessible to everybody.
Earlier in the year, there was a lady from Omaha that came here and spent 3 days here. And the sole purpose was to look up her grandparents and great grandparents. And the reason she contacted me is they had lived in Central Addition. And I was able to go over and show her where their house was. Of course, unfortunately, it was out where the river is now, but she spent 3 days here doing that with genealogy, the library, and supervisor's office.
We appreciate all your support, both for special projects, but also the consistent annual support that you provide to the library. So
anything else? The movement seconded.
Second,
Yeah,
all in favor, aye.
aye,
Opposed, same sign.
thank you.
Motion carries. We discuss Bonita Avenue and provide letter to City of Ottumwa.
The city of Ottumwa, when they create an urban renewal area, they're required to hold what's called a consultation with the county, the schools, and they had that consultation. And I went to that, and there was one person from, I believe, Indian Hills that was there. We have 7 days, which is today, to give them an answer back on what we think of the project. I would point out we have no control. We can't stop it. We can't alter it. We can't change it. But we would be on record of our position. And then it would be read at when they hold the public hearing on November the 2nd. There's 3 public hearings that night, one on the urban renewal area, one on the agreement with the developer. I'm not sure what the third one is, but they have 3 that night and they'll be read. It goes before the Planning Commission on the 25th. It wasn't a very long meeting, but some of the questions I asked is the whole reason for this, making it an urban renewal area to create a TIF district. And Zach, who was in charge of the meeting, said, yes, it was. They want to create a TIF district and they need to make it an urban renewal area first. Could they do the project without making it an urban renewal area? Yes, they could. but they would not be eligible for the TIF dollars. Are there any other projects planned for the area or just this one? And he said at this time, they don't know of any other projects that would be planned for out there. And what would the TIF dollars, which are about $3.5 million, what would they be used for? And the bulk of it, about $3.5 million, would be as a rebate to the developer through his property taxes. The other amount would be used for some site improvements in the area. They can do, I asked if they could do the project without the TIF dollars, and the answer was legally they can, but financially they probably couldn't or probably wouldn't. But my question is, this has not been approved by the city council yet. It's not coming up until November the 2nd, and there's already several $100,000 worth of work done on the site. So, you know, I don't know how that come about. It might lead me to believe that maybe if they don't get approval of this, that they're still gonna go ahead with the project. Or I don't think they would have invested this money first. I'm not opposed to the project. It's legal to put it there. And even though it might disappoint the neighbors, it's still legal to do it. But my objection is to the TIF dollars. For those people that say that it will not raise taxes, that's not true. Here's what happens. Every year, the schools, the city, and the county's budgets are increased. They have to increase because of utility costs go up, inflationary costs, salaries for the employees go up. How do you pay for that? The best way to pay for it is create new development, like the housing project, and take that 100 and some thousand and use it to pay those increased costs. Let's say you don't do that and you give the money back to the developer. Where does that money come from? Where does it have to come from? Us, the rest of us that are paying tax. There is nowhere else to get those inflationary costs. So it has to come from the rest of it. So in the roundabout way, when we do give this money back, and I've seen in the past where, if I remember right, they might give a benefit of 2 or 3 years or 7 years, but 20 years of free taxes, that's a lifetime. So my suggestion is that in our letter, which we have to give to the city today, we don't have to give them a letter, but if we're going to, it has to be by the close of business today. My suggestion is that we don't have anything to say about the project, but we can give our input on whether they should be given TIF dollars to a private developer, and I don't think we should.
I am going to agree with Jerry. I think the biggest housing's a need, and someone wants to develop in our community. I think that's great. I'm necessarily not completely opposed to some help on some things. You're going to have to fix. Bonita is going to have to be improved. It's going to have to be widened. Where's the sidewalk stuff coming from? Different things like that. I think I'm curious as to where all that was before. As Jerry said, a couple $100,000 worth of work's being done. And, you know, now this pops up. I mean, it's suspicious, I guess, at best would be the best way to say it. I'm 100% not in agreement of a 20-year tax abatement, because exactly what Jerry said, we got bills to pay, and you sooner or later have to start increasing your general fund with development. And if we're taking that money solidly out of possibly going into the general fund and moving into TIF areas, you know, some of your things like your hotel, you got hotel motel tax stuff, you got people coming into town to spend tax, you know, spend their dollars, helps with local option tax, whatever. There's arguments that other way. I just couldn't imagine, a 20-year tax abatement for any business. And I say even businesses, because I'll go back to even the Coles development. I voted against that abatement, which in essence is exactly what it was. So we have to start increasing our general fund, and when it's being pumped into TIF and just other loans, it's very tough to do that.
For those that, let's say that's 120,000, I don't know that that's the exact figure, but let's say it is, then $60,000 of that would go into the city's general fund to pay salaries, inflationary costs, utilities, things like that. 36,000 would go to the schools and 24,000 would go to Wapello County. A small amount would go to other entities, Indian Hills and those places. So it's a sizable amount when you look at it. And if you look at that 60,000 that'll go into the city's general fund. Now let's say the hotel over at Bridgeview, which is another 20-year, that's another 60,000. Now we're at 120,000 that would go into the city's general fund. And it'd be 50,000 that go into the county's general fund to pay salaries and those things. So I'm opposed to it. You could.
Mayor, do you have any input on this that you can enlighten us with?
Well, I hesitate to say anything since it has not gone to the council for any decision yet. And it's very adequately shared. It won't be presented until the November 2nd council meeting. So I'd be speculating at best. I think we do need the housing. We've been told that, as Jerry said, they can do the project legally, but financially it's questionable whether they can afford to do it without the rebate. Unfortunately, that was negotiated with a previous employee, and I'm not sure our council wants to see a 20-year rebate at this point, but that has not been discussed publicly. So I can't really offer much opinion one way or the other until we have some public discussion.
Do you know why they would start the project without an agreement?
Well, I think that's on the contract or the developer. We've had no involvement with that. It's a private land deal between the owner, former owner, and Hubrick construction firm. And so whatever they do is private business between the two of them. We don't have any involvement with it.
But lead me to believe if you're investing that kind of money in it, I don't blame them for asking. I don't blame them for asking for 20 years of free taxes. But I blame us if we say yes. I make a motion that we give our consultation letter to the city today, voicing objections to making it an urban renewal area and creating a TIF district.
Will you draft that letter?
I can.
You know how to do that?
I can't type it, but I can write it.
Right. I'll second.
Yeah, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, approved letter to USDA Rural Development.
This was requested, Wayne gave it to me from the Fair Board. They're going to do some electrical improvements and they're going to try and create a campground down there. And all this is to say that what they're doing does not conflict with any of our plans, that we don't have something proposed that's contrary to what they're doing. That's all this is. And we don't have any projects in the area that this would be contrary to. So I'd make a motion that we approve the letter.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Okay, Black Ice TIF viewer software renewal tax and motor vehicle.
Move to approve
Second.
$83.99.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Presentation by Wapello County Sheriff's Office and Ottumwa Police Department.
Thank you very much. I got a short PowerPoint to show you and go through with you. I've printed out the PowerPoint. This is the longer PowerPoint. I did a shorter one with you guys just because everybody's time is valuable. If you want a copy. I've asked some folks to come and answer questions they may have.
I didn't get
You
one.
may have or assist.
You got one?
Oh, sorry about that one.
Yeah, but no, you're not.
I handed yours to Kelly. I thought she was gonna hand it. So I also have Trevor Milton, who was with Central Square, and that's the vendor that we're looking to move forward with currently. So we that's Chad and I. Thanks for presenters. So in 2017, the Tacoma Police Department and Wapello County Sheriff's Office recognized that there's some needs in our software and met with 3 or 4 different vendors and had conversations. During that time, Central Square was the one that stood out with us in 2017. Because of funding, the Sheriff's Office and the Police Department didn't move forward then. We felt like it was an expense that we didn't feel was very well time period for us to do it. We've had our software system, which is called All Points, we've had for 20 years. In 2000, I think it's 2001, 2002 time period, we started using that in the jail, and it's developed now to what we have. Here a few weeks ago, we had a demo with Central Square. We asked them to come in and sit down with us. We had about 15 to 18 people, employees that attended the demo from the police department, the sheriff's office. And what we've done is brought the end users in and asked them, what did they like about the system? What did they see it works? Because Chad and I can think something's great all day, but the end users, we need to satisfy in our work. That's what, Tacoma Police Department uses CIS, and I think I've just heard a lot of the end users not really finding that's a very workable system. So we've had people from our office as well as Chad's office, former employees and current employees that have used this system, Central Square offers, and they all speak highly of it. We were up at Marshalltown. Chief Tupper, that was a police officer here about 18 years ago, he is up there at Marshalltown. We went up and looked at their system while we were up there looking at some radio stuff, and they had nothing but good things to say. So computer-aided dispatching, that's a typical, the first part that as soon as a call comes into our office. The nice thing about Central Square is the CAD, the record system, the civil system, and jail system, there's one sign-in point. Currently, right now, with All Points, in order for me to get to records, I have to sign into records. For me to get to the jail portion, I have to sign into the jail portion. And then same thing with civil. This is all one sign-on, one location. When the officers and the deputies sign on, there's a dashboard that pops up. We can see information immediately as to what's possibly happened the last 2 shifts. Those dashboards can be set up independently as to what people want there and want to see immediately when they log on. This Central Square integrates in our central data or state databases, like with MOCS. MOC is a mapping system that we use. Tracks is how we write our citation, our complaint affidavits, and then Clips is how we run their 27 or run the driver's license and license plates. This all integrates with the system. The nice thing is we have information shared instantaneously between the 2 departments, and just the redundancy that we have currently right now. If we run somebody's license plate or driver's license, we run it in one system and turn over here and enter the stuff in another system into the call of service. The nice thing about Central Square, it auto populates it in there for us. We don't have to, it saves us time and having to enter stuff. Go ahead. This, with Central Square, we can make it how we want it to be. You know, we can configure the system. It's not, they don't come to us and say, here's our system, we hope you like it. We can configure it how we want it to be. You know, there's key points in there. So when we're entering information, whether it's in the jail or a case file, there's check marks that have to be met before it can move on to the next screen. So then we're keeping that data, keeping that information. Another good thing about the computer aided draft or computer aided dispatching is that there's alerts on the name cards. There's on the names you can see in the system if they have a protective order. We can set it up if they have a weapons permit. We can set it up if they have a warrant. So that stuff is instantaneously there for us to see. Another good thing about it is photos. When you're out in the field, if you had a traffic stop and you have somebody, you can pull a photo immediately. Police department can, as well as us, of a person there to make sure we have the right person. The patrol supervisors have the ability to approve reports in bulk. It's just going to be a much more efficient system for them and for us. The call to service location information I'll be pushed out to the mobile CAD system in each one of our cars, because we all have computers in there. We basically have a mobile computerized dispatching system that an officer can automatically pick a call that they can pick the call and go on it. They don't necessarily be dispatched by a dispatcher to the call. Time saved by having to look up information, easier usage of the system under high stress situations. You know, I've gone down and given those folks breaks in dispatch. I hate it. It's stressful. And, you know, this will be a simpler system. So what we've done is add the end users in here to give you their point of view, what they see that makes the system useful. There's there's 2 or 3 different videos here.
My name is Ryan Major. I'm a communication specialist at Wapello County Sheriff's Department. And so benefits of the Central Square program would be that it requires less time to enter calls for service. This real-time data entry would be a vast improvement over our current software, which cannot operate at the same pace as the dispatch environment does. It's frustrating for the dispatchers that they can't enter calls as fast as they receive them, and you're always behind. Another benefit would be the reduction of multiple data entries. Instead of having to enter the same information multiple times in different places, this software can also automatically import information from other software systems, eliminating you having to actually enter the data at all. And also there's several benefits between the police department and ourselves as far as information sharing between jail information, addresses for people, phone numbers for people, that officers and dispatch can both just readily have that information available to. We don't have to ask each other for it. I believe this software system, especially for the sheriff's office, would be a major upgrade. It would be more than well worth it. You know, we're about 20 years behind on our software as it is then.
So then the other portion is the records management system here. You know, again, we're back to the single sign-on credentials is all you need. You know, we can, you know, whether it's us or the Tumble Police Department, there's one location, one sign-in, and you can access it all. You know, all the forms can be preloaded and built how we want them to be. You know, it might be different from how Marshalltown's forms are, but we have that luxury of being able to build it. You know, another nice thing about this is currently, like with our system, if we have witness statements and photographs and other evidence that is digitalized that we want to put with the case file, we have to do it somewhere else and keep that information somewhere else and not in all points. With this system, we can save whatever we want to and attach it to the case file within this system. You know, again, back to that, the name cards where it has the alerts on there, officers can search for permits and other information is needed. It's right there at their fingertips in the car. Go ahead. Now to the jail system portion of it. what's nice about this, it's more streamlined and easier. You've already got the call to service come in with the dispatch. They've entered that information. And then we have the officer going out to the scene. And say, for example, they've arrested somebody and taken, transported to the jail. They do their arrest report. All that information is already into the system. It's going to streamline our book-in process. Losing data is going to be minimized because we have this stuff already in there. It's already in place. And you can't move on to the next screen until all the information's entered. This will save time, as I said. This will, right now, the Tumble Police Department, if they need a photo lineup, they'll come over to the sheriff's office and find one of us, and we'll build a photo lineup and help them in that process. They'll be able to do that themselves. And the other thing is they'll be able to do it on scene if they want to, right from their in-car computer system. Now, each one of these I tried to make about a minute. Jason got a little bit longer one. So please go ahead and start that, Tim. But it's just some good information. So it's all good to have.
My name is Jason Fuller with the Wapello County Sheriff's Office. I'm the Assistant Jail Administrator. Central Square will give the jail the ability to essentially eliminate double entry from whatever deputies' information they put in from a call or even the police department. We will already have that information, and our intake process will be considerably lower and more efficient. We will already have information from the field that the deputy or police officer has entered, which will increase productivity as far as jail staff. It will eliminate mistakes made from double entry. One thing that we provide for officers in the field are photo lineups. The officers in the field will be able to use the photos we take from our intake booking process and have them available to make their own lineup to be able to use in the field, which will cut down time from intake officers creating them and actually being able to show to the witness to identify a defendant or a suspect. So it will increase the amount of productivity that will be able to happen elsewhere as opposed to double entry, and basically make the whole process of booking inmates into jail more efficient. This the process has boxes that have to be checked and information that has to be entered prior to going on to the next step. So that will allow to make sure that all information is entered before the booking officer can go to the next step, which will basically get that information for everybody who is going to need it in the future, which it's whether it's, their tattoos. We use different identifiers to identify people. If somebody's out in the field and they believe that it's a suspect, they can look and see if they have a tattoo on file and actually see that tattoo and identify that person. It will give other departments information that we gather here that they may not necessarily gather, that will allow them to identify people, use that information for locating people, whether it's former addresses that we gather that we've had in the past. So it should be a very beneficial product as far as being more efficient, less entry time, and being more accurate. Whatever information dispatch will enter or a deputy will enter, we will already have, and we'll cut down on booking processes and give them other time to address other issues with inmates.
So I think Jason covered it pretty good, maybe a couple different times. So the administration portion of this is this connectivity between the two agencies, obviously making this transparent. We'll be able to build these reports out that for the community and for elected officials for this system. Use data analytics to see if we need to spend more time at a particular place. again, go ahead. So again, it has a sound X system, so if we're looking for any complaints or anything, we can find that stuff. Again, the digitized forms. Another big part of what we like about it is the managed servers. Central Square will manage the servers. They will do updates, maintenance, and backups. Central Square provides all the servers, and it eliminates the cost for the IT department and time and work for them. So they handle everything with the servers and the system. Another thing that's coming about with the Central Square is not only can it be used for law enforcement, we can use it with fire and use it for emergency management. There's a lot of different things we can put into the system that helps dispatch when it becomes a fire issue. Just things that pop up once they enter the fire code, for example, it can pop up and be right there and give them some direction and what they need to do. And the same thing with emergency management type stuff. They can have to their access. If we have community disaster, they can have connectivity to it and help. And whatever the situation might be is what we found with it. And it just calls for service, 911 calls the city and us, and just showing that it's an upward trend, and it shows that we're just a busier place and we need to make it more efficient system for us and user friendly. We're here today to not ask for anything, just kind of give you a presentation of what we're working on together. We're doing it with the city council tonight. We're trying to get a grant with this through Legacy. We're doing a presentation with them tomorrow evening at their meeting, and then the 911 board. So I guess I'm just looking for your support moving forward on this, and we'll probably be back once we get some other funding figured out and see if we can work out something. So that's all I have. If you guys have any questions.
Is there a time frame? Let's say you started today, you had all the financing money started today. How long before it would be functional?
So as I said, Trevor, I hope I introduced him at the beginning, Trevor Milton with Central Square. He tells us 8 to 12 months after contract signed and turned in, we'd be 8 to 12 months getting the light switch turned on, I guess.
And I know you said, you don't have all the financing, the grants, or
Correct.
but is there a ballpark figure on the total cost?
Around 600,000.
Is that down a little bit from your initial guess?
No,
maybe?
it's gone up from 2017. Yes, I think when
I think we
estimated-
talked around 800, or I think you had brought up that I thought number 800 stuck out a little bit.
He's a salesman. He's here in the audience. Be careful.
So,
But yeah, it's I think because I think we were talking about two different systems. I
Okay.
think we were talking about some radio stuff. I think
Okay.
in that is what it's up from what it was in 2017, but most everything has gone up. But there's some new features that we really like with it, and so.
I think one thing that kind of stands out to me, and again, I think Jason pointed it out 4 times, but I think it's the fact that, with the system, the way that it's described, and hopefully it works exactly that way, and I'm not saying this that, hey, we can cut jail staff or anything along those lines, but we've been running short for quite some time. And, those efficiencies, every business is trying to figure out a way to do things simpler, more streamlined, passing stuff on to the customer or whatever it may be. And I think some of these things like that, to cut down on a little bit of that, to where, that guy doesn't have a half hour to sit there now. He's got to get that in and get back over here to do whatever. So I think that's an important part of this that I wouldn't have known.
Well, and again, some more money savings when we talk about going paperless. Currently right now, when we do a round in the jail, which is done every hour, we print out the head count of who's in jail. And we can make that all electronic, we believe, afterwards. So then we're not having to print it out. With meds, we can, it's all paper. We can do meds, hopefully paperless now too. And what we're looking at is, our not to get off topic, but our in-car computers, we've had this conversation with you guys, it's 6 to 7 years old, maybe we can still repurpose those tablets down in the jail where they could use those and do head counts and med documentation and be paperless on that system. So there's just a lot of opportunities with this system that I think will save a little money, obviously the cost up front, but it's all.
Do you know when you'll know what Legacy is going to give you?
Well, I think we'll obviously get more tomorrow night. We do the presentation with them. I don't know if they're, my understanding is they have a retreat coming up in first part of November. Maybe they do some action then and we'll kind of know. So hopefully by the middle of November, we'll kind of have an idea of where they're at. I know we've sent them a letter, explaining them our what we're looking at, and it was pretty well received by them, is what I've been told. So I think hopefully November we know something, middle of November.
Is there a cost association later on after this is installed?
Yep.
Or something?
Yep, there's an annual maintenance each year, and I think just with the quote we got, it's around $70,000.
Now
That's
that's
just for-
70,000 to the system, which would be shared by the city and the county, or how?
That's been the conversation that Chief and I have had, that we would, because they have access to all the same system that we have there, even the jail system, we'd lock down, they couldn't be into the medical questions and stuff that we have in the jail, but they have access to the jail system. They have access to all information on the system, just like we would. So I think just splitting it down the middle, whatever costs there might be is a fair and accurate way of doing this. How him and I've talked about, but obviously there's other people amongst the talking points. I think it's his and I's system, so I think how we work it out is between us, but I mean, obviously the people holding the money's entirely up to them.
Mentioned the server replacement, part of that cost is paying for.
Yeah, so when I say 70,000, I said the Central Square is responsible for the servers, the backup, the maintenance and everything. They, so when the servers in 5 years, because typically that's what they say needs to be replaced, they come in and replace them. It's no additional cost for us because it's being covered in the annual maintenance fee.
So even though there's 70,000 costs, that's not 70,000 new dollars.
Say that again.
Well, even though there's 70,000 annual expense,
Mhm.
that's not 70,000 new dollars, because we're gonna have to be replacing servers and things like that on our own.
Yeah, we won't have to do that then.
Right,
because
so
then we
it's
can-
not
correct,
70,000 new
correct.
dollars.
I guess correct is the best way to say it. And I think, that's the first year is 70,000. There's it goes up each year a little bit, just like the cost of doing business goes up for all of us. So there's it can be up to 5% increase in that maintenance fee every year.
Well, I'd say keep us posted on what the reaction is from the city council and from Legacy, because I think from listening to this, I think this is something that's in your future.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. We just have to decide a time frame. If everything falls into place, how quickly we're going to do it.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks.
Quarters, first quarter, 2021-22 report for fees collected.
Move to accept and file.
Second,
All in favor, aye.
aye.
Opposed, same sign, carries. Investment report, September 2021.
Acknowledge and file.
Second. All in favor, aye. Sheriff's Office report for first quarter 2021, 2022.
Move to accept and file.
Second.
File. Okay, passed. Anything else?
Move to adjourn.
We never get this big a crowd. Surely